Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is David. I am an ambassador for emotional wellness. I'm one of these people that got a little bit of OCD. I don't take and put people's words into my head. I have to categorize it just like your psychiatrist does. They have to categorize things, and I have to categorize things. But I also have to go back in history and find out why all this was. You see, long ago, they used to take people like me and put them in an asylum or lock them up someplace to where they can't do any harm. But even before that, when they wandered the earth different places, and when there was emotional separation, people would call them all type of different names. One of them was just a lunatic, crazy, weird, and also some of them would call, especially the women would call the Morgana effect, and other would call them the Merlin effect, wizards, whatever. Because see, they are the ones that understood that they had a condition. They get that there was people out there that did not trust them or hated them. So didn't matter if you're male or female. You learn very quickly to tell people just what they need to know to change their views on you to make it seem better. Thus comes the Merlin and the Morgana effect, or the wizards and witches effect. And everybody hated witches. And so they changed it from witch to wizards. All those that can do this type of magic or changing your ideas and stuff are wizards. But yet they are just like you and me today. They had their points of life where they knew that they could say a certain thing and get a response from the general public on it. And they added this to it, the people's mind would change about where they view the person more in a positive or fearful way. Thus, the wizard, Merlin, and the Morgana effect. And there's been a lot of books come out about these type of effects. We know the one about Merlin and Arthur in England, and the mighty round table and all like this. That's part of the Merlin. Part of the problem was that there was promises made between Merlin and Morgana for the firstborn and this and that became the wizard way. But those are stories. Let's stick to the true fact. The true fact is, and this is part of my tale, and this is all my belief. The true fact is that the general public at the time had really very limited knowledge about certain things. People like myself that have grown and become stable and wellness and still have that schizophrenia affect multiple personalities, multiple ways. We have a way of telling people just what they need to know to make them favorable to our life. They can accept it, even though they know that we are different. They think that we have a supernatural power. Thus, when something happens, they say, it was the wizard that caused it. This is great. Or something bad happened, and they say, Oh, there's a witch around here. We need to do something to get rid of her. But that's just it. Witches are wizards. Wizards are schizophrenic. Schizophrenic are those that understand they have a problem, but they're staying out of those locked cells. They're staying out of those hospitals by doing public trust and public work. I call it the wizard effect. Now, I'm just highlighting my research and my history into this. You see, schizophrenia is something that's happened ever since there was a human being upon this earth. And as some refused to try to control it and just got out of hand, those are the ones that got locked up, killed, or took their own life or somebody else's life. Some of the ones that I think that had it worse was great general Alexander of Greece that had to prove his might and worth by one battle to another. Another one, great Queen Cleopatra. She too had to adjust and make her life more abundant and bigger than others. The true fact about all this is that they're just like you and me, schizophrenic. Most of them have split personalities. Now, there's some schizophrenics out there that has not got split personality. They get the schizoaffective disorder. The schizoaffective disorder is symptoms that you can see, that others can see, that labels them as schizophrenic. And doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, they all had this ability to see because in their schooling and teaching, this schizoaffective problems are put out there. This is how they figure out. If you can have one of the problems, not schizophrenic. You have two of the problems, not schizophrenic, but you have three of the problems, you're schizophrenic. And the categorization in schizoaffective is still very general and very vague, even though those people diagnosed will say that no, it's very specific. Well, no, you're not specific enough because if you were specific enough, you can see that they're even underlying each one of these schizoaffective categorization, there are subtext categorization that can make it look like it's schizoaffective. I see some people posting now about mental illness and schizophrenic and schizoaffective. And even though they are very well and trying their best, they too are going into the same schizoaffective problems and listing problems into certain categorization. But there's subtext in each one of those categorizations that they need to branch off to see. Let's say at the top of the tree, when you come down, you'll start seeing branches. And some of them say, well, it's like the mighty oak. The branches are few, but they're very strong. And I say, no, the branches are like that of a pine tree. And as you come down, those layers of pine needles, the little branches, can break off very easily and never make it to the bottom of the trunk that says that they're schizophrenic. And that's the way I see it. See, good part of schizophrenic may be that car dealer that sells you that car, that knows how to tell you the right things to get you to buy that. You may not think it, they may not think it, but does not mean that it's not so. Once you understand what schizophrenic is and why people call it that, and the fears of men to do that. I mean, you hear it on the news all the time. Oh, that guy must be schizophrenic or just plain crazy or weird or whatever. They're not normal. I hate that word normal because there is no such thing as normal. But it's these people that are afraid, that scared, that takes and makes doctors and psychiatrists work seem plausible and understandable. When in actuality, they're not. They're not getting to the heart of it. Sometimes they'll get close to it and they can't figure it out and they'll say, no, 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 let me go back to the way the standard is. You can't do that. See, being schizophrenic, it's all about emotions. When you're going through some type of emotional trauma, and it can be anything that there is very slightly, from the age of the birth of a child, which one with a advanced type of memory being born can be a traumatic effect on them and cause them to be schizoaffective and categorized, but they don't do it because they think children can't have this. But yes, that's a trauma. It's an emotional trauma, and it can affect the child's life for the rest of its life. All the way up to you could be 70, 80 years old and if have an emotional thing. And the emotional thing may be just that you lose a pet, a certain type of weather change, something happened in your life caused an emotional breakage that caused you to do this, to have this. It could be physical, it could be mental, that caused you to have this emotional separation from yourself, unless you get the schizoaffective syndromes. But in order to repair, you have to go back and see it. Most people that has as a child that breaking of emotional things, it's hard for them to go back. Even though their memories can go all the way back to where they were birthed, they may not be able to connect to that point to where there was an emotional detachment. I'm lucky because I see it. I see my emotional detachment from the first time that my brother started to rape me. I was slightly detached. And then as I tried to cling to my mother, she said, I wish you were never born. And that sent me back to where I was raped. And then I looked for my second mother, my oldest sister. And she followed the context of my mother, true mother, when she says, like mom, I wish you were never born. Nothing but trouble. Thus come the full emotional detachment. And thus come creating that false friends or imaginary friends from the graveyard. Dead people. They're still in my head. I can still see them. But I recall the first time that I started seeing them. Oh, lots of people can't do that. I can because I had that eidetic memory. And I go back to the words and I can see everything happening. I can see my mother sitting on a porch with a bunch of older women nursing my younger sister at the time. And when she lifted up her skirt, her blouse, and put my young sister to the nipple, My mother looked at me angrily and said, "What, you want some nanny? I wish you were never born. Get out of here, boy." And everybody just laughed and thought it was funny because I turned red faced and ran. But I was a child. I did not understand it. In the kitchen, I could see my old sister trying to prepare something for us to eat. And I was there and underfoot. I'm not really sure all that I was doing because she finally said, "You nothing but trouble. Get out of here." Just like Mom, I wish you were never born. That's the complete of the emotional detachment. I can see that. You have to go back to that moment when there was some type of emotional trauma in your life. No matter how small it may seem or how big it was, there was an emotional detachment. And until you can reach that point, you cannot overcome or even understand what your troubles are. It's not mental, it's all emotional. But sometime or another, you had to separate your feeling from the real world of some kind because it hurts so bad to the only other outcome is to take your life. So you struggle with all your life. You worry about it all your life. You wonder just what you need to do. You wonder, how did this happen? And you seek help. And that help comes in forms of people that really don't know themselves. I am an ambassador for emotional wellness. You can be one too, but you need to go back and see where you detached and what it's going to take to reconnect. And when you do reconnect each time, it's going to be painful, hurtful. You're going to want to run and hide again. But you have to get through the threshold. You have to get through that door. You have to get through that trouble. And once you do, you'll find that you're at peace. And once you're at peace, does not mean that you can change everything, all your personalities. No. But you can see them coming up. Doesn't mean that it won't happen to you. Have troubles and problems. It just means that you see it and you can control it. Let's say with a schizophrenic, they do things chemically to their body and they find ways, what they call tooling, to help settle themselves and bring their personality back under control. Get them back out of the schizoaffective thing to where they have more control over their body and their mind. The emotional wellness does that too, but in a way that what you're experiencing from your tools is nothing compared to being emotionally well. To where you see when you start to get angry or when you start to joke hysterically or when you're so depressed till you can't see a way out, no hope, that emotional wellness takes over and brings you back to a centering of yourself to where you can say, yes, this is what happened. And I'm controlling it now. And I'm back in order. You are a wizard, no matter how you look at them, male or female. They are wizards. You're not like that of Harry Potter. You're not going to wave a wand around and make this happen, that happen. Even though people like to think that they can do little things like that to better themselves in the world. Let's get real, people. The only way to get better is to understand what caused you to get the way you are. And the way you are is somewhere In there, there is an emotional detachment. Find it. Live it over and over and over again until you can control it. It's like the guy that jumps out of an airplane for the first time. They see the falling, and faster he falls at the start of the jump, scares the crap. But just a few seconds later, he'll see that there is control, and that he's not falling any faster, and that there is control. And once they gain that control, the fear of falling is gone. Just the adrenaline of it is still there, which causes a rise in the endorphins inside the brain, causing pleasure, not fear. I guess next time I'll talk more about the fear in your life and the pleasures of it, and how that also controls your emotions. For right now, I am David, and I'm about to end this. Y'all have a good day. Hope to see you here again soon. Bye bye.